The full final week of the MLB regular season starts on this Tuesday. Only 4 games yesterday. Why? A ton of teams resting up to begin their second to last series of this Major League Baseball regular season. Some in the hunt for October. Some trying to claim a playoff berth. Some trying to clinch a division. So let's set the stage with all of the competitive races that you need to know over these final 6 days and games of the MLB regular season. We start in the American League, Joe, by looking at the AL playoff picture. The Yankees need 1 win to claim the American League East. They have built up a hefty lead over the O's, who are 4 games below 500 since the All-Star break. 92-64 for New York. Not just a big lead, Joe, for the Yanks over the Orioles. Also a pretty substantial difference now in front of the Guardians. They've got a 2.5-game lead for the top overall seed in the American League. The Astros had an opportunity, like the Phillies did in the National League East, to claim the American League West divisional crown last night. Bryce Miller, 7 innings of 2-hit baseball, shutting out the Astros. They did end up scoring 1 run, but Seattle keeps the hope alive ever so slightly in the American League West. Those are the divisional standings. Now let's get to the really good stuff. It's the wild card race. The Orioles, all right, they're not going to win the American League East, but still they have a 4-game lead for the top wild card spot. The Royals have lost 7 straight. The Tigers are playing out of their mind since August 22nd. Those 2 American League Central teams are tied for the final 2 AL wildcard spots. The Twins on a slide. They are now a full game outside of the wildcard standings, and the Mariners only back by a game and a half, even if the American League West seems a little bit out of reach.
Yeah, and boy, it got real interesting over the last week and a half, Ben, mostly because the Royals have fell apart. And now all of a sudden, with the way Detroit's been playing, Minnesota, the Mariners now, can they win enough games and get some help here? I really thought it was pretty solidified there that we were going to just get the Orioles, the Royals, and the Twins, but anything but that can happen. It might look totally different by the end of the week here, Ben. It's kind of crazy.
And, Joe, that is the crazy thing, and you are completely correct in that, at least estimation. At the All-Star break, even in the few weeks after, by the time we got to the middle of August, it seemed pretty determined. The Red Sox were struggling. The Mariners were not going to catch the Astros, who were surging in the American League West, that in some form or fashion, the team that lost out on the American League East would be the top wild card team. And it would be the Twins and the Royals, in some order, taking the final 2 spots. Minnesota has struggled mightily. Detroit has been great, and KC is holding on for dear life as they have lost 7 in a row. So let's look at those playoff odds available on the FanDuel Sportsbook. Exactly a week ago, I bet the Tigers at plus 140 to make the American League postseason. You could have got them closer to plus 700 a few days prior to that. Now, where the odds are in the American League, Detroit is minus 405, Minnesota minus 138, Kansas City minus 178. The Tigers have the best price of the American League Central trio to get to the postseason.
It really is kind of crazy what's been going on here. The Royals could very well, if they can't turn this thing around, Ben, this is just heartbreak city here for Kansas City. But I do think they should have enough to be able to close it out down the stretch here this week. I'm banking on them making the playoffs.
Yeah, you know what's so interesting, Joe? It's not like the Royals have been on this slide the entirety of the second half or all of September, even since the middle of August. They had won 7 of 9 prior to the 7-game skid that did feature a sweep against the Tigers. So the Tigers, who have now won 6 of their last 7 games, and since August 22nd, when they were 4 games below 500, have won 20 of 28. They are in prime position. The Tigers end with 2 home series, and here is why Detroit is greater than a $4 favorite. They play the Rays at home, Tampa below 500, and they end the year against the the White Sox. The Royals have to go on the road for their final two. They go to the nation's capital to take on the Nats. Then they end the year against Atlanta. Obviously, we'll get to the National League wildcard chase because that's the story. The Braves and the Mets start a series against one another today. We'll go to the NL. Up next, it's going to be a good final week of this MLB regular season. Stay with us on the early line. All right, from the American League playoff picture, now we go to the National League. Most has been decided, but of course we have a monumental series about to start today in Atlanta between the New York Mets and the Atlanta Braves. So let's go to the top. The Dodgers, 3-game lead in the National League West. The reason that is interesting is because the Dodgers begin a series today against the Padres, who have won 4 straight. San Diego sweeping the White Sox over the weekend. Good for the Padres. The Phillies clinched the National League East last night, their first divisional crown since 2011, trailing the Dodgers by a half game for the number 1 overall seed. The Brewers clinched the National League Central, the first team to clinch a division last week. They're going to host the wild card round. Outside of that, probably going to be on the road. The Padres in advantage, as you see there, 3 games up over the Mets for the top wild card spot. The Mets and the Braves will get to. The D-backs lost yesterday, Joe, at home against the Giants. They were booked as the home favorite. Matt Chapman had a good day at the dish for San Francisco. So the D-backs and the Mets were tied following the weekend. Arizona falls back by a half game, now just a game and a half in front of Atlanta. So let's talk about the series that everybody will have an eye on this week. I mean, of course, we're going to be tapped into everything here that has some sort of significance and importance for the MLB playoff race. But when you have 2 teams squaring off for the same spot, that's where you focus, especially if it's a divisional rivalry. We start today in Atlanta. The Braves and the Mets. Spencer Schwellenbach, the rookie, on the bump for the Braves. A disastrous start to the year, has been really good since June. Luis Severino on the other side for New York. The Braves are a home favorite today against the Mets. Can they claw their way back, Joe? Can Atlanta make their way to a National League playoff appearance once again?
I just don't think so, Ben. I mean, Schwellenbach, I think, gives them the best shot because he's been the most reliable and has literally carried this team for most of this season, quite honestly. Coming in as a rookie, he's been the one guy they've been able to at least depend upon. But I just don't see the Braves with the hot and cold lineup here. They've yet to put any sort of streak together, Ben, that would impress me enough to think that the bats are going to get hot at the right time. I don't see it happening. To me, they're going to score another one of these 1-2 runs and lose, and they're going to figure out what went wrong. The lineup went wrong this year for Atlanta.
It's been so tough, right? The Braves even having an opportunity is kind of a testament, actually, to what their roster has been able to do. You look at the starting staff. They lost Spencer Strider before the year really got underway. They lose the reigning National League MVP, Ronald Acuna Jr. You could have a long injury list for everything Atlanta has had to deal with to even have an opportunity to be just a game and a half out starting their final week of this MLB regular season to have the chance to sniff the postseason. It's minus 146 to the no. That means the Braves are favored to miss the postseason entering this final week. Arizona is minus 385. The New York Mets minus 560. That's really it when it comes to consideration in the National League wildcard chase. And the Mets don't need to sweep the Braves. Heck, they don't even really need to win the series. They just need one win in Atlanta. But if they can take 2 of 3 in the ATL, the Mets will be a playoff team. They end the year against the Brewers, which on paper is a good team, but Milwaukee, by that point, they're not going to catch either the Dodgers or the Phillies for those top 2 spots in the opening round bye in the National League. They've already claimed the division.
Yeah, and I mean, motivation, there really is none for them at that particular point. They're going to be looking ahead to pitching matchups and lining up their rotation, and they're not going to have any interest in that series whatsoever.
Yeah, not whatsoever. So now let's talk about the other compelling race. Only a half game separates the Dodgers and the Phillies for the number one overall seed. Home field advantage throughout the National League postseason. The Dodgers a hefty favorite at minus 150. The Phils celebrating last night. I would not look to Philadelphia to bounce back today and maybe claim a game, which probably benefits the Dodgers because they're still in a chase here, Joe, against the San Diego Padres. No division prices out on the FanDuel Sportsbook. The Dodgers, of course, a cushion 3 games in front of San Diego, but they do face each other in a 3-game set. There is a world the Padres sweep Los Angeles, as they've been one of the hottest teams since the All-Star break, which could make this rather compelling. The odds makers do not expect that to be the case. LA minus 150 to be the number one overall seed in the National League. The Phils, the second best price at plus 180.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that the Dodgers certainly have shown a little something here down the stretch where they still have another gear. I can't believe it took the Phillies as long as it did, quite honestly, with the first half they had been, to actually get it done and lock in that top spot there in the National League East. But better late than never. But I still think the way the odds are rolling right now, the Dodgers should be the favorite, and the Phillies are a clear second choice. But will the chalk prevail, man? That's the big question.
And that has been the question with the expanded postseason in Major League Baseball. We have seen many wild card teams take advantage of momentum in October to be there. World Series last year, a matchup between 2 teams that finished in wild card spots. In fact, let me just check this here. I'm pretty sure they both occupied the final spot, the 6th seed in their leagues, to get in to the postseason. If I am not mistaken, and can get a little bit of help here, that would be helpful as well. No, the Rangers were the 5 seed, the second of 3 wild card teams in the American League. The D-backs were that 6 seed, but of course 2 wild card teams facing off in a World Series. The debates of rest versus rust and the expanded postseason crowning a legitimate World Series champ, we will save for that time. The Phillies have at least played in the National League Championship Series each of the past 2 years. Red October, a big thing in Philadelphia. I will say this about the Dodgers. Again, heavily favored. The odds aren't even out there right now to hold on and win the National League West. The Dodgers are a home favorite slightly today. Landon Knack gets the start against Michael King for San Diego. If the Dodgers do that, Joe, which we expect at least through the final 2 series, LA will win the National League West for the 11th time in the last 12 seasons. And yet, in the previous 10 playoff appearances, the Dodgers have made the World Series only 3 times. In their only World Series title, that came in the COVID-shortened sprint that was 2020. It is time for the Dodgers, that were expected to be the best team in baseball, that were expected to be a World Series champ, do exactly that after a historic season from Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, and it's so funny, Ben, because here we are, right? They still have still something to be decided here in terms of seeding for them. But the biggest question mark remains, and this is what, for the second year in a row, is Jack Flaherty, Yamamoto, Buehler, and Knack. Is that enough in a starting rotation to make you want to back the Dodgers? And I just don't know that that's the case.
It's a great point, Joe. It really is, because Tyler Glasnow not expected to be back for Dave Roberts and the Dodgers throughout this postseason. We know pitching wins. If you were going to compare starting staffs between those top 2 teams in the National League, I think Philadelphia would have the edge. And by the way, if it comes down to it, that the Phils and the Dodgers are tied with the same record at the end of this season, Philadelphia has the tiebreaker, winning the season series against Los Angeles for that number 1 overall seed. Quickly back to the American League. Again, the Yankees 1 win away from claiming the American League East, 6 games up on Baltimore. They face each other up in the Bronx to start this final week. The Yankees are a heavy favorite today at minus 162 with Clark Schmidt on the bump, and they're a hefty favorite at minus 220 to win the series. Those odds available. The Braves, by the way, pretty heavy favorite over the Mets to win the series. Be worth a sprinkle on the Amazons, albeit on the road. More on the early line up next. The last week of the Major League Baseball regular season fully begins on this Tuesday. A chock-full slate to break down for you here. All of the playoff races that you need to know, whether it's a playoff spot or postseason positioning, and those seed lines around both the AL and the NL. We do that with our MLB insider and the host of Newswire. It is Craig Mish joining us here on this Tuesday on the early line. Craig, as always, we appreciate the time.
Final week of the regular season in baseball. You know, this is it. We're going to find out really who gets in and who is out in the end. We've got a couple of races, I know. A lot of celebrations going on this week, too, so we're looking forward to jumping in.
Yes, we certainly will. Craig, for one last time in this regular season, it begins the final week of the regular season in terms of touching them all. We'll still do it in the playoffs. It's now time, though, for the daily bases. All right, Craig Mish, not just the end of a season, but the end of a career for a longtime Colorado Rocky, Charlie Blackmon. Spent all 14 years of his Major League Baseball career up there at Coors Field. Four-time All-Star, two-time Silver Slugger, and won the 2017 NL batting title. Maybe a name you don't know as well, but hopefully the long hair, the lechuga, and the beard that you recognize, who spent nearly a decade and a half in Colorado. Craig, how will you remember the career of Charlie Blackmon?
Yeah, a great player, playing at altitude for many years. It kind of takes me back to 10, 15 years ago playing fantasy baseball when you always wanted Rockies players, when the Rockies were, and by the way, they still are very competitive at home. Take a look at the Rockies' home record this year. It's like they have the worst record in the National League, not named the Marlins, and yet their home record's always pretty good. Always put on a show for the home crowd, as you mentioned, won a batting title. Certainly one of those players that will be on the Hall of Fame ballot, will get some consideration, but, naturally I think he does fall short of that. But I did see him play for many years in person and have nothing for respect for him. Retires at the age of 38, by the way. Probably had a couple of years left, not having a bad year either, but just decided that it is time.
And with the same team, so kudos to him, too, there, man. Start and finish your career with the same team. The pennant races are getting interesting here, Craig. They wanted, with the extra playoff spot, right, they wanted meaningful games in the last week of the regular season. Well, we got them in the American League because it looks nothing like it did a week ago here. What is your take on what we've got here so far?
It's going to be a fight to the finish. I think, Yankees and Astros battling record-wise. Cleveland's already in, of course. But I think most people realize who's going to be in the postseason with the exception of that final wild card spot. And let's just call it what it is at this point. The Twins and the Royals have both fallen apart in September to some degree, and the Tigers have taken the league by storm. They're calling up Jackson Jobe today. He's their top prospect. He won't be available for the postseason, but he'll pitch today for the Tigers. They try to push their way in. Hard to doubt the hot teams, Joe, the last couple of weeks of the Major League Baseball season. So I do think in the end, Detroit's got a great shot to get in. Kansas City, they had a really good season. I think they will sneak in. I think the pressure right now is on Minnesota because Minnesota, was in it from start to finish. They got 3 games coming up here against Miami. I mean, anything less than 2 of those 3 wins, I would say there's going to be some trouble in Minneapolis at the end of the season.
15 games, 72 and 57, above 500 was Minnesota on August 25th. Since that point, in the last 3+ weeks, 9 and 18 to now find themselves on the outside looking in, entering the final week of this MLB regular season. Of course, the expanded playoffs in Major League Baseball began in full in 2022. And Craig, the 2 pennant winners in the National League in the 2 playoffs we have seen have both been a wild card team, which makes the pennant odds a little bit interesting to look at. The Dodgers and the Phillies have been the 2 best teams in the NL and really MLB all of this year. And they are still the 2 favorites to win the National League pennant, plus 164 LA. Philly only 40 cents back. So I ask you the question this way. Will the National League pennant winner come from those 2 top teams, or will it be somebody on the outside once again?
It would be a guess. As you've said, Ben, the last couple of years, it has not gone the way that the teams that got the bye won. If you watch the Philly celebration last night after they won, Rob Thompson, the manager, said that we want the bye. We want the time off. And so show up tomorrow, be ready to win until we get that. So that tells you everything you need to know. at some point, I think the mold will be broken. It could be potentially this year. I still do like the Phillies here, and I think the Phillies have a great shot. I think the American League, to me, is a little bit more wide open than the National League. I do think that one of those, let's say, first 4 teams comes out of it. Maybe that does seem a little bit wild to me. But I do think an upset could be brewing in the AL, but hard for me to see the Phillies not in the NLCS at the very least. I think the Dodgers have fallen over themselves in the postseason, so I can't sit here and predict them. Right. But the Phillies, I think they'll be there in the end. Whether they get all the way, I'm not clear.
One of the hot teams here, the New York Mets down the stretch. Big series starting tonight against the Braves. Schwellenbach has been a lifesaver for him this year for the Braves with all those injuries to the starting rotation. Has he got another one in him here tonight?
I mean, he may, but do the Braves? I mean, their offense is just so hot and cold. I have no idea which Braves team to expect. I think that's something they're going to have to figure out in the offseason, how all of these players on the Braves, even with Acuna being out, some of them have slumped at different times. The one line that I would look at today that is interesting, because, again, tough game to win. It does seem like the Mets offense, to me, I noticed on FanDuel that number is 3.5 for their total runs scored. A little bit juice. I think it's minus 120 or minus 125. I don't know that the Mets are necessarily going to win because, again, it's the Braves. One game, 7 runs. One game, no runs. So not going to predict the winner. But I could see the Mets scoring 4 runs today. Schwellenbach's only going to go 5 innings, maybe gives up 2-3 runs. Braves bullpen is okay. Iglesias has been great. Rest of the pen can give up some runs. So I'll just play that today. Mets over 3.5 runs.
I like that look, Craig Mish. I really do. The New York Mets, 9 games below 500 at the end of May. A proud organization. Grimace came through, and from that point, 63-36. They have been one of the best, if not the best team in baseball in that span. The fact the Braves are even here in the final week is a testament to the resilience. They've won 4 of their last 5. Just might be a little bit too late against the New York Mets. Craig Mish, we appreciate the time. Thanks for being here. More of the early line continues next. The final week of the Major League Baseball season starts in full on this Tuesday. We had 4 games on Monday, a ton of the 30 clubs resting up around MLB. So we set the stage for a full Tuesday slate, and everybody starts and will be underway in their second to last series of this Major League Baseball regular season. It is always crazy to me, Joe, 162 games in a regular season, and for many teams around the bigs in terms of postseason positioning or just earning that playoff berth, it comes down to the final 6 in this final week, and that is certainly the case starting today in Atlanta. A game that has been circled, a series that has been circled for quite some time. When the Mets were starting to rally throughout the summer and the Braves were dealing with their injury concerns and starting to falter. Could this series determine a playoff spot? That might be the case. In Atlanta, the Braves will host the Mets for a 3-game set starting today. And today in the A, the Braves are a home favorite. Spencer Schwellenbach gets the start. Atlanta minus 136. Luis Severino on the other side for New York plus 116. A little bit of market movement as you see. A total of 8. How does this incredibly crucial series in the ATL begin today?
Yeah, and at plus money, the team that has been the best, I mean, going back to July 1st here, has there been anybody better than the New York Mets? The answer is no. And we talked to Craig Mish earlier, and, he said it perfectly. Can somebody please tell me which Atlanta Braves team shows up? And the answer is we have no idea. Severino, familiar with this Atlanta team, has had some success against them so far this year. I think they have split the season series to this point 5-5. This is going to be a Mets team that has proven to be able to play really well on the road. I don't see any reason to get in front of them at plus money here. I'll take what I think is the better team at plus money here, Ben.
Yeah, listen, I would agree with you, Joe, and maybe not in this game, but I do believe the Mets can win. There are 2 series odds out for the second to last sets that begin today. This one in Atlanta on FanDuel. The Braves a minus 176 favorite to win the set. The Mets are the underdog. And in New York, the Yankees will host the O's. They're greater than a $2 favorite. We'll get to that game in just a little bit. I have bet the Mets to win this series at plus 142. Winning this game with Luis Severino against Spencer Schwellenbach would go a long way. Joe, we have talked about the Braves, so injured this season. They haven't been bad necessarily since the All-Star break. They're 32-29 since the All-Star break in Arlington, above 500. They have won 4 of their last 5. They just haven't been as red hot as the other teams they look up at in the National League wild card. The Padres, these Mets, and, of course, the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are struggling a little bit here as of late. But why is New York in this prime position with a 2-game advantage over their divisional mate to earn that playoff spot? They have been lights out really since the end of May, but especially here continuing that as of late. They have won 6 of their last 7. They have won 8 of their last 11. Since August 28th, when they were 5 games above 500, they have won 18 of their last 23. Have the amazing. They have been the team to back it up. I think the Mets do that in Atlanta, winning this series and potentially winning the opener obviously goes a long way to helping with that. The Braves not even just looking up at the Mets, 2-game difference there. They're only a game and a half back now of Arizona. We'll talk about the D-backs who lost their series opener yesterday to San Francisco. But as we focus on the National League West, if you look at the FanDuel Sportsbook, you would have already thought the Dodgers have clinched this division. Not the case. It's the Southern California rivalry at the Ravine starting tonight. The Dodgers have just a 3-game lead in the National League West. San Diego has won 7 of the 10 against L.A. so far this year. They have the tiebreaker advantage regardless of the result of this series. Joe, San Diego, who has dominated L.A. and swept the most recent 2-game set between the two, if they were to sweep this series, we're tied at the top. If they take 2 of 3, there's a 1-game difference, or I guess what would be a 2-game difference between these two teams with 1 series remaining. The Dodgers should win the National League West for the 11th time in the last 12 years. But I don't think the odds should be off the board that there's not a realistic possibility the Padres make some hay this week in Los Angeles.
I mean, listen, you're talking about a Padres team that started the season going 50-50, Ben. Since that time, they are a 40-16. They've won 7 of 10 against the Dodgers this year, like you said. You tell me the eye test here, who's the better team? The better team is the Padres, and they have imposed their will on the Dodgers. We'll go back to the starting pitching once again. I still give the edge to the Padres. I give the edge in the bullpen to the Padres, and the bats, to me, I think it's a wash, but there is no doubt who the better team has been consistently since the middle part of this season, and that has been the Padres. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, Ben. Give me the Padres once again to make this thing real interesting for the Dodgers.
The underdog tonight is San Diego. Michael King has been great in the second half. It's another young arm, Landon Knack, who has also been pretty consistently good for L.A., but the Dodgers just a minus 120 home money line favorite tonight. Now we go to Arizona, where yesterday the Diamondbacks were the slight home favorite against the Giants and lost the series opener against San Francisco. So now the D-backs just a game and a half up over Atlanta for what is the 3rd and final National League wildcard spot. Brandon Pfaadt gets the start today, minus 146 against Logan Webb on the other side. How competitive is this game in downtown Phoenix tonight?
Yeah, it feels like this is going to be very playoff-esque here. Hard to go against Pfaadt at home. He's been a better pitcher at home than on the road, but I'm going to go even better. I think it's going to be a playoff game. I'm taking the under 8, Ben, with these two starting pitchers. I think it's going to be a tough one.
Total yesterday was 8, went over. San Francisco won 6-3. Matt Chapman was great at the dish for San Francisco. I would agree, Joe. I lean under in a playoff atmosphere as Arizona's going to be watching the scoreboard in Atlanta. More to come next. It is time to play some baseball. A couple of divisional crowns on the line tonight in the American League in some divisional duels. Let's start in the Bronx between the Yankees and the O's. Joe, at the All-Star break, even in the opening half, everybody looked at this series. Second to last could determine the American League East. It is going to more than likely, as the Yankees need just one more win to claim the divisional crown, but not in the way we expected. We thought the winner of this series would win the division. The Yankees now have a 6-game lead over Baltimore. The O's a couple of games below 500 since that All-Star break. The Yankees have pulled away. Clark Schmidt gets the start tonight for the Pinstripes. They're a minus 162 home money line favorite up in the Bronx. Do the Yankees clinch the American League East tonight?
Really, what is Baltimore playing for again? I mean, they're pretty much locked in to that top wild card spot right now.
Correct.
They have Kremer is not a better pitcher than Clark Schmidt. Clark Schmidt is now a 1.76 ERA in 3 starts since he came back from the IL. You've got a lot of guys on this Yankees lineup here that have really good splits against Kremer. Yankees want that number 1 seed. They have said they wanted it. And it's right here for the taking with 1 win. And I think they get it rather easily here tonight. I would even lay the 1.5, Ben.
Yeah, I would agree with you, Joe. The Yankees have that 2.5-game lead over Cleveland for that number 1 overall spot. The Guardians have 7 more games left in this Major League Baseball season, by the way. Only 5 games left. I did my math incorrectly. 2 against Cincinnati starting today. Then they have Thursday off. They end the year against Houston. What exactly is the motivation going to be in that final 3-game set between the Guardians and the Astros, especially if the Yankees do handle the O's this week? Again, New York, a minus 225 favorite to win this series. Speaking of the Astros, they had a chance last night at home against Seattle with 1 more win to claim the American League West. Did not go their way. Bryce Miller was great for the M's. Seattle wins 6-1. So who do you turn to when you need a title? That's Framber Valdez. 15 starts, Joe, since the end of June for Valdez. The Astros have won 13 of 15. And one of their 2 losses was Valdez's last start that he gave up a single earned run against the red-hot San Diego Padres, who blanked Houston on the other side. I just bet the minus 134 price on the Stros and Valdez to win this game and claim the American League West. Am I crazy for doing so, or do you think that happens tonight?
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, it's there are some guys that you want to put your money behind, Ben, in these kinds of spots, and Framber Valdez absolutely is one of them here. Gilbert's been great for them, for Seattle, but that is a very big ask, one in which I would not be comfortable. 5-3, I think, in 11 career starts against the Astros, 1-1 so far. He pitched against them twice in May. I don't know, call me crazy here, but this is exactly the kind of spot you want Houston to be able to get the job done and advance. And Seattle, sorry, I know what Seattle team's showing up tonight, Ben. It's not a lot of runs.
And listen, the Astros have that 4-game advantage. Seattle kind of out of it from the American League West perspective, but now only a game and a half out of the American League wildcard chase, so that becomes our focus. We start with the only day baseball game today. That's in Detroit. The Tigers trying to take care of business against the Rays. Tarek Skubal gets the start for the Tigers. They are nearly a $2 favorite at home. It's minus 188. Do the Tigers continue their winning ways?
No, well, they better, right? What choice do they have? You got the right guy on the mound in the right spot here. That's the way to going. I know they called up, the kid too, Jackson Jobe, we heard too. So, I mean, call me crazy. This is a team and a train I don't want to get in front of, and Tampa can't hit, and they're not going to hit this pitching staff either.
No, do not believe so. Total 6.5. The Tigers have won 6 of their last 7. The Royals have dropped 7 straight. They're in Washington tonight. Oof. The Twins on a mighty slide, but they host the Marlins. Will both of these teams, booked as a favorite in both spots, Joe, as we look at Minnesota as well, get a win on this Tuesday?
Yeah, I think favorites are the way to go here in the opening games of these series here. I'm going to back the Royals. I'm going to back the Twins to get it done here and breathe a little sigh of relief.
Minus 166 for KC on the road, albeit in the nation's capital. The Twins at home, minus 245 against the Fish. He's Joe Ranieri. I'm Ben Stevens. The early line returns tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern time on SportsGrid.